Hello. We're going to be looking at factorising quadratics today. Factorising quadratics is basically the opposite action to expanding two brackets. So you're going to get a question that looks like the one I've written out here, x squared plus 8x plus 15. And what you're going to be expected to do is to end up with an answer that is two brackets next to each other, like that. And you've got to work out how to turn those numbers into something like x plus 3, x minus 5, or whatever it might be there. So how do you go about that? Okay, well, first of all, what you've got to do is ignore the single x squared on its own. Forget that. Look at the two other elements that have got numbers attached to them. Now, what's going to happen here is that you're going to have to do a little puzzle. This one here, the 15 at the end, you're going to have to find two numbers that multiply together to make 15. And those same two numbers must also add up to make 8. Okay, now you probably worked it out already, but let's just do it slowly and check. To make 8, you could have 1 plus 7. But 1 plus 7 makes 8, but 1 times 7 doesn't make 15, so that's not your answer. You could have 2 plus 6. 2 plus 6 makes 8. 2 times 6 doesn't make 15. No good. You could have 3 plus 5. 3 plus 5 makes 8. 3 times 5 makes 15. That's your answer. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And what we're going to do now is we're going to rewrite this question, keeping the x squared as it was, plus, now we said 3 plus 5, so plus 3x plus 5x plus the 15 that was already there. So what we've done is we've expanded it. Okay, we've just simply, well, we've just basically written this out in a longer way. It's still 3 plus 5 makes 8. It's still the same question, but we've spread it out so that we've got 4 elements. That's important because of our two brackets. Now, we're going to look at each element in turn now. And I'm going to put them in little boxes. X squared is x times x. 3x is 3 times x. 5x is 5 times x. And 15 is 3 times 5. Comes from the numbers that we had there. Now, imagine, just a little imaginary section down the middle there. It's going to split into two parts. So let's deal with the first part first. Look for common factors like we did when we were just doing ordinary factorising. And there's an x on both sides there. The x is going to go outside the bracket. And inside the bracket is x plus 3. How do I know it's plus 3 and not minus 3? Well, there was a plus there, and it also doesn't say minus in front of it. We'll talk about that kind of thing later. Over on the other side, common factors, we've got a 5. That's going to go outside the bracket. And then we've got x plus 3. Now, can you notice here that x plus 3 is in both sets of brackets? That's very important. If that doesn't happen, you've done something wrong. Okay, it's very, very important that those two brackets are exactly the same as each other. So, always, if there's a mistake there, it'll come out in this part because those two brackets will be different. We've nearly finished now. The x plus 3, excuse me, the x plus 3 is one of the brackets. It doesn't matter whether it's the first bracket or the second bracket. I'm going to put it second. What goes in the first bracket is what's left on the outside, and that's x plus 5. If that said minus 5, it would be minus 5, x minus 5. It doesn't. That's it. Now, you could re-expand this. You can do that in your own time if you want to. You know, x times x makes x squared. X times 3 makes 3x. And so on. Keep expanding it, and you'll go back eventually to the original question. Okay, so that is how you do a quadratic factorisation. We need to do a couple more because you need the practice. Excuse me. So we'll take another one. And first of all, in this one, you can see that we've got some negatives. X squared plus 3x minus 18. So the first job we've got to do is we've got to look for two numbers that are going to multiply together to make 18 and going to add together to make 3. Now, because there's a minus involved in that 18, let's start thinking about numbers where you're going to subtract to get 3. Don't start doing 2 plus 1 and so on to make 3, because 2 times 1 is never going to make minus 18, is it? So let's start bigger than 3 and let's think about 4 take away 1. That makes 3. 4 times minus 1 makes minus 4, so that's no help to us. You could have 5 take away 2 to make 3, but 5 times minus 2 is minus 10. You could have 6 take away 3. 6 minus 3 makes 3. 6 times minus 3 makes minus 18. That's the one we want. So rewrite it. X squared plus 6x, okay, from there, minus 3x from there, minus 18. That stays the same. So now we're going to break this into 4 little boxes. I'll put the 4 little boxes in first. And we're going to write out these things in longhand. X squared is x times x. 6x is 6 times x. Excuse me. Minus 3x is minus 3 times x. Minus 18 is minus 3 times 6. Now remember, it could be minus 6 times 3, but we wrote it in there with a minus sign in front of the 3. Once we've established that, keep it. Don't start switching it around, because that'll mess up your system. Okay, so in the first half, then we've got an x and an x, so that goes outside the bracket, and remaining inside the bracket, we've got an x and a 6. X plus 6. On this side, we've got a minus 3 both times, and inside the bracket we've got an x plus 6. We've got the same thing inside both brackets, x plus 6, so that is going to form one of your brackets. The other bracket, we've got an x minus 3. And that's it. Redo the question if you want to reverse it and get back to the original. It will work. Okay, let's just start it off for you. X times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. Minus 3 times x is minus 3x. Minus 3 times 6 is minus 18. And then simplify. Okay. One more. It doesn't really get any more complicated, but this one could throw you if you got it in an exam, because there's a missing number there. The middle section, n squared plus n minus 6, might throw you slightly. So let's just remember that that n in the middle is 1n. So what we've got to do here is we've got to find two numbers that multiply together to make 6, and two numbers that add up to make n. I said 6 there, I meant minus 6, didn't I? I hope you spotted that. Minus means that we're going to start with a number bigger than 1 and start to do some subtraction. So let's have a think. What could we be doing? 2 minus 1 makes 1. 2 times minus 1 doesn't make minus 6. That's not our answer. 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 makes 1. 3 times minus 2 makes minus 6. That's the one we want. So we're going to stick to the minus 2 part. If you'd have done it another way round and had minus 2 plus 3, it could have still worked, and then you'd have had to stick to the minus 3. But let's stick to what we've already said. So we've got n squared. Now we've got plus 3n minus 2n minus 6. Okay, we're now going to put that into our 4 boxes with a little gap down the middle so that we don't confuse them. N squared is n times n. 3n is 3 times n. Minus 2n is minus 2 times n. And minus 6 is minus 2 times 3. Look for our common factors. n is in both boxes, and remaining in the boxes afterwards is n plus 3. That doesn't have a minus sign in front of it. It didn't there either. So that is plus 3. In the other box, minus 2 is there both times. N plus 3 is what's left over. N plus 3 is in both brackets. So that's going to form one of our brackets. The remaining numbers on the outside of the brackets, n minus 2. And that's factorised another quadratic there for you. Okay, so that's a really straightforward way of doing things. Use the boxes every time. Lots of people don't seem to use the boxes, and I think they help enormously. I can't always do it without the boxes because I lose track of what I'm doing. So use it with the boxes. And there we are. That is Factorising Quadratics. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it's made sense to you. And we'll see you again soon on Maths is Not a Mystery. Bye bye.